All right, everyone, we start off today with some polling news. We have new polling from Arizona and Nevada. By the way, polls the other day as well from North Carolina, Georgia, and Michigan. Donald Trump is kicking Joe Biden's ass pretty much everywhere. I don't see a lead for Biden in any of the competitive states, actually. This is the first time that's happened. You'll note, 2016. Donald Trump was ahead a little bit occasionally in some of the swing states that he ended up winning. He was ahead a little bit a couple of times in national matchup polling against Clinton. He was generally behind, though, by a reasonably small margin, but he was generally behind. Of course, he did come in behind in the final results as well, nationally. Then you fast forward to 2020. Joe Biden was ahead in all of the competitive states at all times. He was ahead in general polling at all times, in the aggregate at least. There were only 2 or 3 polls in the entire polling period that showed Trump with any form of lead at all, and he was never ahead in the aggregate. In 2024, we see a juxtaposition. It's almost as bad for the Democrats as it was for the GOP side on the presidential ticket in 2020. It's almost a similar gap at this point in the swing states. Certainly in general polling, Trump has pulled ahead, maintained his lead now in the aggregate for several months. Again, this is an accomplishment he never had in the other elections that he participated in. Supposedly, he lost by a razor-thin margin of a couple of 100,000 votes in 6 different states in 2020, despite being considerably behind in aggregated polling. It was almost 7 points on Election Day. That's at the national level, and larger than that in some of those swing states, by the way. He wins in 2016, despite, again, coming in generally behind. He did better than in 2020 in polling. If he maintains the kind of edge that he currently has in both general and state polling, we will talk about Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan and so forth in a minute, he will win the election. It won't even be close. He might even win the popular vote, which would, by the way, absolutely ass-blast the liberals out there with TDS. The Nikki Haley fans would be pretty mad, too, I think. She's definitely mad. Mad as in goddamn nuts. She's actually crazy enough to get hammered in her own home state. And as of tomorrow, by the way, update, I will be doing a live stream in the evening. I'm going to do a Saturday live stream because that's going to be funny. Watching her lose by at least 20 points in her own home state. And I would say 25 to 30 is probably the margin we're looking at. So I'll be live streaming, live reacting to Nikki Haley getting gobsmacked. We might end up with her giving a concession speech. I don't know whether she's crazy enough to stay in after losing her own home state. I can't predict that. Her behavior is just so far beyond bizarre at this point that she's kind of an unknown quantity. Half of her money comes from Democrats anyway, so, I mean, really, as long as she's willing to humiliate herself and self-deprecate, there's no reason for her to get out of the race, I suppose. So she might be mad enough after all and say, well, we're going to unify the Republican Party, but I'm going to continue staying in the race despite the fact that I've self-evidently lost. We'll see. It'll be fun. Probably go for a couple of hours. I have a feeling the race will be called within 10 minutes, by the way. These new polls, link in the description. Always use RCP for your aggregated polls. It's probably the best, most fair site to do that with. Use them for a number of cycles. Pretty accurate. Again, you get a scatter shot, but when you fire the shotgun, any particular single piece of shrapnel that hits the target is probably not in the center. But when you look at all of them together and sort of average them out, you can see the trajectory generally. In new polling, Donald Trump has a comfortable lead in Nevada. He has a comfortable lead in Arizona. Yesterday's polls, he has a comfortable lead in the state of Michigan. He's well ahead in North Carolina and Georgia. North Carolina, I don't even know why they bother polling for it at this point because it's approaching the double-digit mark. With those states, Donald Trump would be reelected. There's the votes that you need. Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona, you're over 270. He would win. He would win the election. Even before we count Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, etc. The possibility of New Hampshire being in play. You remember that the Democratic Party screwed New Hampshire. They said, well, we're not even going to count the delegates from your state because you're refusing to obey us, because they wanted to jump South Carolina to the fore as a gift to Joe Biden because he actually won that state's primary in 2020. You remember he lost in New Hampshire to Bernie Sanders, so it's a form of punishment and a little bit of a reward to the sitting president. who really, he doesn't face any primary opposition anyway, but New Hampshire stood on principle. I'm hoping that come election day, Democrats in the state of New Hampshire realize your state just effectively got snubbed by the DNC. And it won't take more than a few tens of thousands of New Hampshire voters, considering the relatively low state population, to give it potentially to Donald Trump. And I'm thinking about a scenario, wildly unlikely, admittedly, but it would be humorous, where Trump comes in just below, but then New Hampshire comes in and puts him right over the mark to like 272 or something like that. It's possible. It's just not likely. I think that he's going to run far ahead of that. I would suspect that North Carolina and Georgia at this point are almost off the table for the Dems. I don't think that there are enough ballot printers to surmount Trump's lead. Well, that's a good pickup. Georgia and North Carolina have a decent number of delegates. With Michigan in the mix, that's a lot of delegates, and the lead is pretty comfortable. It's better than it was in 2016 at any time. And then now you have Arizona and Nevada. Well, that's the election. Donald Trump may very well go on to this magic moment where he's under house arrest at the Mar-a-Lago because he's been found guilty of a felony, and supposedly that'll cripple his campaign. And finally, Orange Man really, truly bad, and then people will realize it. Where he comes out of the Mar-a-Lago on election night and has his ankle monitor snapped off on live TV while grinning wildly at the crowd and putting the thumbs up and stuff. That may actually happen, getting a second non-consecutive term. The second president to ever do that since Grover Cleveland, of course, many moons ago. It's been a while, Grover. It would be hilarious. It would also be the most stunning rebuke of a sitting U.S. president in our political history. It would be the most monumental rebuke of Biden's failed policies. This is all that I'm asking for. This is all that I hope for. And it's not just for me, it's for the whole country. It would be for the best, but part of it is for me. As a political analyst, it'd be hilarious. Oh boy, can you imagine the live stream on election night and probably several days thereafter looking just at liberal responses and the TDS suffers. Mike Pence would be pissing his pants at that point. Shit, I stabbed the now incoming president in the back. And I had presidential records I wasn't legally entitled to have at my house. Now, I skated on it before, but there's no telling what Donald is going to do because he's probably on the warpath right now against people who screwed him. Uh-oh. I don't think that Mike Pence is a very happy camper. I think he's probably had a number of nightmares about just that scenario. Good. Kind of fucking deserves it. Trump is winning everywhere. I think Wisconsin, if I remember correctly, Pennsylvania's closer, and he doesn't need it though. If he's that far ahead in Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Georgia, and North Carolina, that's the election. He's already got the votes. So don't get demoralized. Now, also don't get complacent. If you happen to support MAGA, populism, Trump, and the return of the American way, go knock on some doors. Harvest a couple of ballots. Call 10 people. Tell your friends. Make sure to get out and vote. And don't wait until election day. Do what the Democrats do. They're already fully mobilized on the national level. The Republicans are still pretending that there's a primary right now, so we have to save the Republicans from themselves and their general tendency to fuck themselves in the ass. Those of us who are not Republicans and actually want to win probably have to pull a little bit more weight. So, clankers, if I can get like 20 of you, a small fraction of the people that watch this video, to just do a little bit of footwork, that rolls over into thousands of votes. Potentially thousands of votes. Go Scott Pressler mode for a single week and see how many people you can get signed up. Hey, you want to vote for Trump? Yeah, I'm not registered. Oh, here's a registration form. Here, I'll help you, walk you through the process. Go and check out Scott Pressler's material. It'll take you a couple hours to familiarize yourself with the basic premise and then go and do the thing. That's all we need to do, especially if you're in a state that's competitive. But you should probably be doing that even if you're in a deep blue state because we want that national vote margin to be as high as possible. That's about all. Peace out.